welcome back. Welcome to my house. Today, I'm going to visit with you while I iron. I hope you'll enjoy just some chatting. After that, I'm going to show you how I make toilet bowl fizzies. I hate cleaning toilets, I hate it. And this was one of the easiest, most organic ways I found to clean my toilet with the fizzies. So if you want something organic and natural and easy to do, join me. And the last thing, of course, tea time with frosted brownies, and they're amazing. So come along, let's go. Every Wednesday I iron. I used to hate ironing. I think partly is because I would wait until I had a huge pile and there was so much to iron that it just felt like a hour-long chore. But doing it every Wednesday, I'm able to keep up with it, and then it's not so bad. And I actually now am finding pleasure in having things nice and crisp and wrinkle-free. Plus, I used to use spray starch out of the can that you buy at the store. It's like $3 or $4 a bottle to have it nice and crisp. But it had that chemical smell. I'm sure it wasn't good for me, or for the environment, healthy-wise. So now I have a spray bottle filled with water, and I put like 2-3 drops of cinnamon essential oil. So as the hot iron goes over my fabric and hits that essential oil, I get that nice little smell and scent of cinnamon. I think when my bottle runs out, I'm gonna use lemon next time just for something as a change. But I have several essential oils, so now I can't wait to change them up. Maybe sometime lavender, maybe orange, maybe clove, whatever I feel like. But I like that smell much better than the chemical smell that comes out of a spray can. So, plus I like wearing aprons, and most of those need to be ironed. At least the ones I like to wear. I like to wear the old vintage cotton style. Because I ordered a couple that I thought the pattern was great on Amazon, and it was my fault for not reading it. They weren't cotton, they weren't even material, they were more like a child's little smock that's that like plasticky stuff. And I'm like, no, that's not right. That's not what I want to wear. So I do want to keep my eye out for some of the older ones, like I remember my grandmother wearing, where it almost looked like it came on and you had your back, and then there was like a little back brace across the back, and it was more of almost like a little smock. It had a couple pockets. My grandma Ella wore those all the time. And I wish I'd been able to keep one when she passed away, but it was not something that occurred to me when she passed away. Otherwise, I would have loved to have taken one of her aprons. But so be it. And I know if you think, oh, essential oil, won't it stain my clothes? Well, I'm only using like 3 drops in this big, I think it's a 16-ounce bottle. And I shake it up and everything so it's kind of emulsified into the liquid. So I have not seen it stain any of my clothes yet. So until it does, I'm not going to worry about it. But I also make my own stain remover. It's a tablespoon of Dawn blue dish soap. I believe it's 1/4 of a cup of hydrogen peroxide, and then a cup of water. And it does pretty good to remove the stains. I have a little dry brush that I use to help work it into the stain to help lift it, and that seems to work pretty well. Plus it's more natural, and it's things I have in my house already. It's an absolutely gorgeous day out. I opened all the windows. It's so nice to get the fresh air in. I'm hoping it doesn't get so warm I have to close them and turn on the air. I am just not ready to commit to the air conditioning yet. I have all the ceiling fans running to help keep the fresh air moving, and it just smells amazing outside, feels amazing. If there was a plug-in outside, maybe I could have ironed outside. There we go. Never sour, always sweet. At least I try to be. This apron I got because it reminds me of my mom, the roosters and the vintage style. My mom collected roosters. I have one of her roosters. My daughters each have one as well, because that was something we wanted to remember her by when she passed away. She had a lot of them. And some of them are pretty cool, but I don't need a whole kitchen full like she did. She had so many in her kitchen and they spilled over to her dining room, and I just like too many different things to commit to just one type of collection, like roosters. But every time I see them, they make me think of her. I do have a lamp that was hers that's a rooster, and that does sit in my kitchen, and I enjoy that very much. She also liked the beach and seashells, so I have many of those that remind me of her. She has been gone 10 years, and I miss her very much. I wish she could see me now. She would love to visit us here in North Carolina. She would absolutely love the weather. She would love our large patio to sit on. She would spend all of her time outside, and she would garden. She'd have lots of flowers. And she would enjoy all the antique shops. But she's in heaven, so she's enjoying a lot better things than down here. I do love this apron, even aside from the fact that I picked it for roosters for her. I would have picked it for myself, even without the memories of her, because I just think it's a cool apron. It's an apron, and I prefer the full aprons as opposed to half aprons. I mean, I have a couple of half aprons, but I think the full aprons are better because I tend to be a messy cook, messy baker, and I like having the apron to wipe my hands on or catch spills. So, and some of them I don't think I ever quite get the stains out, but I don't care. That just shows the love that they've been used and worn. So be it. It is interesting though, with the water and a little bit of the cinnamon essential oil, it does smell nice, but it also does kind of crisp up the fabric, so you don't need that chemical spray starch. I would have never saw myself as putting videos on YouTube. I would have never, like 2 months ago, I wouldn't even use an editing app. I didn't used to know how to dehydrate. I didn't make my own jam. I didn't know how to pickle things. I didn't make my own cleaning supplies. So you can learn stuff. It might take time, and there might be some mistakes and some failures, but you just try again. So thanks for joining me while I iron. I enjoyed the company. You went outside, May May? Yeah? It's raining. It's raining. Knock yourself out. It's wide enough. You can go out. Go ahead. Or you just want to open in case you want to go out? You're such a pill. I'm going to make toilet bowl fizzies. I used to buy stuff to clean the toilet with that you would drop in and scrub it, but they were so expensive and hard to find. And when you found them, you got 10 of them and they were like $15. It was just outrageous. So I came across this recipe to make fizzies, and it takes 1 cup of baking soda, a half a cup of citric acid, and I have essential lemon oil, a dropper. I think at the time when I made this, I didn't have any essential lemon oil, so I used sweet orange oil, essential oil. And I believe I used like 7 droppers full, because I wasn't going to sit out there and count the drops. There's a dropper full, good enough. This gets whisked together, the dry stuff, the dry ingredients, if you will. You don't want to eat it though, definitely don't. I started with, I can't remember if I used a fork or if I went to, I think I continued with the fork. I don't remember if I went to with a whisk. Probably would be easier with a whisk. And now in the spray bottle is half a teaspoon of white vinegar and a tablespoon of hydrogen peroxide. And you want to mist it and mix it and mixed it and mixed it. You don't want to dump it all in at once because it will foam up because of the baking soda. So you just keep mixing it, because the point of it is to mix it in enough to make it stick together like wet sand. So you don't want it completely wet so it's mush, but you don't want it so dry it won't stick together. You need to be able to clump it together and have it stick together and hold a shape. I also like the idea of making it from scratch because, number one, other than like, say, citric acid, but baking soda, the essential oils, vinegar, hydrogen peroxide, I almost always have on hand. And I can keep the citric acid on hand. I believe I just got off Amazon. And the recipe makes a dozen. I end up doubling it so I can have 2 dozen because we have 2 bathrooms. But you see how it clumps together and sticks together? That's what you want. But it's not completely wet. Then I bought silicone molds and just press it in there as snug as you can get it. It's interesting though, when you see it after I have them filled, sometimes they tend to puff up a little bit. For some reason, they've just got enough wetness in them that the baking soda reacts and they get a little puffy and spill out of the silicone. I had one do that, and I even weighted it down with books, and it still had enough force to leak out even with a stack of book on top, so whatever. But I didn't mind them kind of filling over the top. You can see them in the ones towards the back that are already filled. They kind of are filling out and raising over their silicone, but that's fine. They'll still work just the same. They look like mushrooms. It's kind of cute, actually. And I was kind of almost hoping this batch I'm working on right now would do the same thing, so they just look like cute little mushrooms. So then you have a cleaning product that looks like a little mushroom, but they didn't do it, so whatever. But you leave them to dry. I usually leave them to dry overnight. Might even take a couple of days, depending on like the conditions in your house and how much wetness you added to them. I actually put them in our garage on top of our washer and dryer. I just put them out there and let them dry overnight. And it was dry enough outside for them to dry because you want them good and hard so they don't get moldy or gross. And there's my mushroom ones. Aren't they kind of cute? They look like little mushrooms. I even looked at them and thought, too bad I couldn't paint those for decor. But as soon as anything liquid touches them, they'll just disintegrate and fizz, which is the whole point of putting them in the toilet, because they'll disintegrate and fizz within your toilet bowl so that you can now use a brush and scrub it and clean it. And you can use more than one. If you want to use a couple in the toilet bowl to make it, even more clean, if it was extra dirty, you can do that. I usually only use one. I store them in glass jars. There's one in each bathroom, so that way I don't have to go around hunting them down and trying to find them. But I've been using them for some time now, and they're much cheaper to make, like I said. And I like the fact that they're all natural. You know what's in them. And you can change the lemon oils too. If you don't want to use lemon oil, you want to use cinnamon oil. If you want to use orange oil. But I would stick with the lemon or the orange just because the citrus helps also clean the toilet. But if you want a different scent, because maybe you don't like those scents, feel free to use whatever essential oil scent that you want. And store them in a jar, and store them in a closet if you don't want to store them up in your bathroom. And there you go. So much easier to deal with. Plus, once you're all done scrubbing and everything in the toilet, you just flush it. Now you have a nice clean bowl. So I don't know about you, but I hate a dirty toilet. And I actually also hate cleaning toilets. So this kind of makes it in a little bit fun because, if you've got a little helper in your house, you could have them drop them into the toilet and they can stand there and watch it fizz. And then you can come back and scrub it and they can be impressed with the fizzy water. So, but I wouldn't use it like in a tub or anything like that. It's strictly for your toilet as a cleaner. So there you go. I'll put the recipe in the comments below. Welcome to my kitchen. I thought today I would make brownies. I found a recipe on the internet, of course. And as what I usually do is I alter the recipe to do what I want. When it's chocolate, a lot of times it will call for vanilla. But I like to substitute with coffee extract because it brings out the chocolate flavor a little stronger. And I mean, if you're not a coffee person, then I'd probably stick with vanilla. But if you like coffee and you like chocolate, add it to the chocolate because it makes it richer. And then it calls for canola oil, and I try not use any seed oils. So we have avocado oil that I use when I bake, and olive oil when we cook. So right now I've got a half a cup of melted butter in here. And I'm going to add, let's start with, got the butter, we'll start with the oil. The avocado oil, half a cup of avocado oil. That's a lot of oil. But that's okay. I'm sure it will be delicious when we get all the other stuff in there. And as always, the recipe is in the comment or in the description below. So if you want to make it yourself, the recipe will be there. Let's see, now we're gonna have brown sugar. And I like to use dark brown sugar because it has a more rich molasses flavor to it. Just a little bit more depth of flavor, and it's 1/4 of a cup. And then the other sugar is regular sugar, and it is going to be 1 3/4. So this will make a 9 by 13 pan. So 1 3/4. I have a 1/4 cup measure already in my sugar. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my cup. And then 1/4, half, and 3/4. Yeah, I like to keep the measures in my things because a lot of times it's easy that way and I don't have to have another mixing measuring cup because it's already there. Just like in my flour, I have 1/3, and in my bread flour, I have a half a cup. I've just found, I've been doing that for years, it just works. And some people, you know, teach their own, but that's the way I like to do it. It makes sense to me. So you do you in your kitchen. I will do me. So let's see. Now it's going to call for, we want 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And I'm using Redmond real salt. Not endorsing them, just saying that's the salt I like to use. And then, don't need this anymore. Then the coffee extract. And it calls for 2 tablespoons of vanilla, but I'm going to use the 2 tablespoons of the coffee. So there's 1 and 2. I like to try and keep my space somewhat organized and clean. I don't like to clutter. I'm a little crazy that way. I like to have things tidied up. It also calls for, I think it's 1/3 of a cup of mini chocolate chips. But when it comes to chocolate, especially if you're adding chocolate chips to like a cookie or cake or brownie, I measure with my heart, so I'm putting in whatever I want. So I've got some leftover mini, and I also have some leftover regular dark chocolate, and they're all gonna go in at that when I'm ready. Make sure they're fully blended before I put the next one in. Put that over here so I don't get as much egg dribble on my counter. And I try and not overbeat because that can make doughs and batters tough. So I just want enough to blend it, and on to the next egg. When I saw this recipe, it looked nice and fudgy. If you like a more cakey brownie, then this won't be the brownie for you. But I like a fudgy brownie. Get the towel. Egg juice. Another egg. It's funny, every recipe seems to always call for large eggs. Does anyone ever use a different size to be sliced large anymore? You know? I don't even remember the last time I looked at medium-sized eggs. It's always large. So, like I said, is there any other size? Okay. Get this one blended. Now we're going to add the baking cocoa. And I like to use Hershey's dark chocolate, but then I like dark chocolate everything. But I'm not a Scrooge. I will have semi-sweet. I will do milk chocolate. I just prefer dark chocolate because it's richer. And I know everybody's not that type. Some people prefer the milk chocolate or semi-sweet or even white chocolate, which I already had that argument with my mother that dark chocolate, that white chocolate is chocolate. It's not. White chocolate is coconut and there is no cacao in it. Hence, it's kind of a lie. There is no such thing as white chocolate. We need 1/4 of a cup of cocoa. There we go. And before I add the flour, I'm going to blend this in a bit. Get this worked in. And might have needed a bigger bowl. I might have misjudged this. We shall find out. Will be a full bowl. Ah! My chocolate's jumping ship. I know a lot of people use like mixers and stand mixers. I do have a regular mixer. I don't have a stand like a KitchenAid, but I don't use it very often. I just kind of old school. My mom always used a fork. So, and I do have a Swedish dough hook, which is sometimes really handy that I've used. But once again, I just kind of come back to old school using a fork. So now we need 2 cups of flour. Let's fill this up. So when I do my flour, I know some of them are like, don't scoop, spoon it in, but I never had problems with it. So I do always level it off. So there's 1 cup, but I'm not gonna add the other one until I get this blended in, because when I add the other one, that's when I'm gonna add my chocolate chips. Because if you add your chocolate chips with your flour, and the flour kind of coats the chocolate chips, it helps them stay a little bit more buoyant, and so they don't tend to sink all to the bottom. And they stay more evenly distributed throughout your brownie, or your, like if you were making cupcakes or muffins. Same goes with fruit. If you were using berries or apples, you want to give them a dusting of flour, or add them with the flour, so that way they kind of have some flour to help them stay up in the batter instead of sinking to the bottom. So there's, now we'll add the other cup and kind of stir it around. There's 1, and I'm doing a little bit smidge because these are measures, but I still think they're a little bit larger than all the other measures I've used, just by a smidge. So I tend to like scale back a little bit on how much I put in there. I'm gonna add the chocolate chips with the flour. Oh, got some strays. There we go. And that's the other thing I would encourage you to do when you buy chocolate chips, is read the package. Because, like if we look here, it says sugar, milk, chocolate, cocoa, butter, soy, less than natural flavors. Same with this one. Got chocolate, sugar, cocoa butter. But some of them you'll read, they don't say chocolate, they say chocolate liqueur, which means they're just flavored with chocolate, and there's not really much real actual chocolate in the chocolate. And granted, you're gonna pay a little bit more to have the real chocolate, but you'll notice a difference in the color and the flavor. Because I've bought some stuff that were chocolate liqueur and it's a lot paler than this, because once again, it's just a flavoring, it's not actual cocoa in the chocolate chips. So buy quality chocolate chips if you're making something chocolate. which is why I tend to buy, nothing to endorse Nestle or Hershey, but their products are made with actual cocoa and cocoa butter fats and not liqueurs. So Ghirardelli, if I can say it, is another good one. Nice heavy bowl. I like these old Pyrex bowls. I know they seem to be all the rage now. People are buying them left and right, and the prices, if you want to go buy one, is expensive. I haven't been to where I live. There's not very many good thrift stores or good thrift stores. So to find them there less expensive, you really don't. So I have found these on eBay. I remember my mom having some. Hers were white with blue, but I wanted these because there's a cat on them. So, and there's a set of, I believe it's a set of 4. I just like how old-fashioned they are. I'm a vintage soul at heart, and I like that old-fashioned. So there we go. Now these will go in the oven for 25 to 35 minutes. So I'm going to bake the brownies for 25 to 35 minutes. What I'm gonna do though is, if it's, say, I'll cut the difference between 25 and 35 and be 30. What I'm gonna do is set my timer for, let's do 15 minutes, because then I'm gonna rotate it 180 degrees and then finish baking the rest of the way. I always rotate anything I'm baking, my cakes, my cookies, brownies, halfway through the baking time, because ovens get hot spots and don't cook evenly, and this way this ensures all of my baked item is a little bit more evenly cooked. So be back when this is finished. Okay, the brownies are done, but don't let the oven tell you when they're done. Let the brownies tell you when they're done. Whenever you're baking, let whatever it is you're baking tell you it's done. So total time I had 32 minutes, but you can kind of see the holes, but they're not going to matter because I'm going to cover them up with frosting. But this is a cake tester, and you can see it's coming out clean. I mean, if it came out with, see, there's a little bit of wet on it, that's okay. It tells me it's done, because if I wait till it comes out completely dry, these will get dried out and not be fudgy anymore. So you want maybe a little smidge. Can you see there's a little bit on them? And that's good. But I started testing them at, like when I'd had them in 25 minutes, the shortest time, and then I put them in a little bit more and then a little bit more. So that's how you want to test. Whenever you're baking anything, you want to take it out at the shortest time and see, is it done? And then a couple minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes more, and try again, so that you don't over bake anything. Now I'm gonna make the frosting for the brownies. I've started with 6 tablespoons of melted butter. It's kind of set up a little bit, but it's still soft, so that's okay. And I'm going to add my vanilla, it says vanilla extract, but I'm using my coffee extract, 1 teaspoon. Because I want it to be super chocolatey flavored. And then it says 1 heaping or approximately 2 tablespoons of baking cocoa. So there's 1 and 2. And I'll stir this up a little bit. Now it calls for milk, but I use coconut milk because milk and I broke up a long time ago. So it's funny, I can still have cheese, but milk, milk and I are not friends. But we'll do coconut milk. It says 4 to 5 tablespoons, but I'm going to start with 4 tablespoons, which is 1/4 of a cup. And then I'll add a smidge more if I need to. You like my bottle for my coconut milk? It's an old liquor bottle, but it's a way to see how full it is, and it keeps it nice and clean, and it fits in our refrigerator door. So there you go. As you can see, I switched to a whisk because I think it works better. So, and now we're gonna add the powdered sugar. So it says 2 3/4 cups, so we'll see. And it's interesting to me how when you add powdered sugar, how it looks kind of like almost separated and clumpy, but this powdered sugar for some reason tends to smooth it all out and make it smoother and nicer. And then the whisk is helping to break up the lumps. So there's 1 cup. So now we'll add another cup. Whoops, sorry about that. My jar, my measuring spoon. So there's another cup. And I know it says 2 3/4, but I still kind of pay attention to what my frosting is doing. Is it the consistency I want? Do I want it to be not as thick or thinner or thicker, or however, you know, you kind of play with it for yourself so it's thickness you want. So like if you wanted to stop here and say, nope, I want it this smooth and thin, you could have it that way. It's your frosting. If you want it super thick, make it super thick. If you want it sweeter because it doesn't taste sweet enough, add more powdered sugar. If you don't want it as sweet, add less. I mean, it's your recipe. Got some little lumps kind of stuck in my whisk there. I do think I will add another smidge of the coconut milk, and then I'll start adding there we go, the other smidge. And then I will add in more powdered sugar. Now I'm going to do it because I need 3 more scoops because this is 1/4 of a cup measure. So I'm going to start with 1 at a time and see if it's where I want it to be. Because do I want to just add 1 more 1/4 of a cup? Do I want to add a 1/2 a cup? Do I want to add the full 3/4? Because it's my frosting and making it the way I want it to be to put on my brownies. So always consider that. Look at, I mean, yeah, recipes are tried and true. Someone else has made it, and you want it to taste like theirs, then you do want to follow the recipe. But at the same time, if you're okay with it being different because you want maybe a different consistency or flavor profile, you can play with that. You don't have to do it all their way. You can alter it so it's more like what you would like. So I'm going to add another one because I do think I want it a little bit thicker. So we'll see what it looks like after this other 1/4 of a cup added in. But I think I will do the 1 more scoop. And this is what the recipe called for. Now, if you got done with it and you still thought, it still seems kind of runny, you could totally add more if you wanted to, because it's your frosting. I'm getting my arm workout. Better switch to the other side so I can be even. I'm not left-handed, so I'm not as good with my left hand. Okay, the brownies are cool enough, so now we can frost them. And I don't have to have a delicate touch, so I'm just dumping the whole thing on there and I'll frost from there. Spread it all out and we'll let it set up. And then later I will enjoy a brownie for tea time. If you are a person that likes to, you could totally have added some toasted pecans or toasted walnuts. You could, instead of chocolate chips, you could throw in butterscotch chips or the peanut butter chips or even white chocolate chips, or a combination of all the above. You could have put down half the brownie batter and then put a layer of like candy bars and then do another layer of the brownie on top instead of chocolate chips. There's a whole lot of ways to play with this. So there you go. There's the brownies. We'll let them completely set up and have some later. Hi friends, welcome. Join me for tea time. This is the brownie I made before. Doesn't it look nice and fudgy? Can't wait to taste it. It reminds me of like the little Debbie brownies that you buy, only like 100 times better. So much better. Get some of those candy sprinkles on top and it'd be like their cosmic brownie, only way times better. So I'm drinking my favorite cacao. See my little mug from my daughters. I think it was for Mother's Day. Maybe it's my birthday. Anyway, I'm drinking my cacao. It's from Creole Brew. Not sponsored. I just love to drink it. I can't handle coffee on my digestion anymore. So chocolatey. No, when I drink coffee, my digestion hates me for it. But I love the smell and taste and everything about coffee. But this is a great mimic because it's cacao beans and it smells like chocolate, but it's not sweet like a hot cocoa. It has the body of like a coffee. So my husband found it for me and I was like, thank you. Well, it's funny because it has no caffeine in it, so you can drink it any time of day. So I usually always drink it in the afternoon because it's not going to stop me from sleeping. And it pairs so well with chocolate. Of course, so many things do pair so well with chocolate. I had it in the fridge for a little while to try and get the frosting to set up a little firmer, which is still kind of soft, but I don't care. And now I'm just going to cover it and leave it on the counter because I like my brownies to be softer, not so firm, but still delicious, still amazing, still worth making. I would try it if I was you. So chocolatey. Well, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for coming to visit. I hope you had a great time. I hope you have a wonderful day. And I'll see you next time.